Hi, I'm Caroline. So, welcome. I'm really glad you're here today. So, whether you're like trying to get back into dating after something happened, after a heartbreak, or if you've been on the apps for a while and you're just starting to feel like, what is the point? That's kind of where my sweet spot is, because I've been in all of those places and I've worked with a lot of people in all of those places. And I've really seen what works and what doesn't for working towards your goals, whatever they are. So, if you don't know me, I'm a former white glove matchmaker turned certified NLP and life coach. My work now focuses on helping people heal from dating burnout and from heartbreak. Because right, those are turning points, right, where you're kind of making decisions, and sometimes the decisions are not toward your goal, and sometimes they you feel like you want to make a permanent decision, but whatever I can do to help someone make room for possibility in their life toward whatever their goal is, if that makes sense. So um, after working one on one with hundreds of daters between matchmaking and coaching, I've seen it time and time again, that those periods, those transition periods where you're really questioning yourself, you're losing sight of things, like that's my sweet spot. So I have certain beliefs. I don't believe you have to find a soulmate to build a fulfilling life. That I believe that you can rebuild confidence and clarity and direction, whether that leads you toward a relationship that really fits or toward just really thriving on your own and feeling very fulfilled in your life on your own. So, my job is to help you get unstuck and start moving forward toward that future. I help you create a permanent toolkit for healing that's going to last you a lifetime and it's going to keep you on track so you have a blueprint to refer to. I've joked a lot in my life on being part of a refugee family, is that I often feel like everybody else got a manual to life and I didn't. And even becoming a parent, like going to parent events at schools and all those things, I've always felt like everybody else knew the rules about how they were to behave and what was expected of them and how they have to show up. And like I didn't have that rule book. And I felt like if someone would just tell me what I was supposed to do, it would remove so much anxiety from me. And so, because of that, my whole life, I have spent a lot of time really studying people, studying the rules, studying what is the etiquette? Why is there a point to this? What is the goal here? And how can we effectively move through situations doing like the least amount of harm to get the result that we want, right? And so I've really become a student of that. And I, if I can help you create a manual, right? A manual for reaching your goals, then that is what I want to do. That is anything I can help you build to feel like you always have this to refer to. You can always come back to it. We all get off track. No one gets on their path and stays there perfectly, right? We all take detours, we learn. And then sometimes we need redirection. Sometimes we come out of experiences and we kind of go, what now? Like what now? And sometimes we waste time beating ourselves up about choices that we made and things that we did that got us off course instead of, harnessing that energy and those learnings right away and then turning them into action. So that's really what I help people do, is to distill these experiences into lessons that you carry forward and help you really kind of let go of that feeling or fear that you maybe held on to the wrong person, situation, whatever, for too long, right? So I do not coach people forever. It's not open-ended thing like going to therapy. The goal is always to launch you on your journey with your toolkit, feeling more confident and secure than ever, knowing that I'm always here if you want to check back in, but if we never speak again, that's okay too, right? Um, so I just want you to know it's about making a transformation and feeling super empowered, and then going off on your path, on your way. So as always, please engage with the session in the chat, even if you're watching this on replay, because it helps you remember things you resonate with, and it helps me know more about what you might want to dig deeper into. So today I wanted to talk about emotional unavailability, right? By request, I took a poll. Sometimes I'm ruminating on a lot of different topics, or I'm wondering, have I touched on something but not covered it very directly? And so when I'm feeling that way, I will get an idea from the group here, and have you guys vote and let me know what you want to hear about. Um, and I try to be responsive to that. If you ever want to message me, you have a question, you want me to address something, and you don't want to do it in a public forum, just message me. You guys do that, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows you can just send me a direct message, and I will, if I can create content around it, if I can create a session around it or anything, or a guide, whatever it is, like I will always try to do that. Sometimes when you look at the topics, I go, I'd love to address that. And I don't always know what I'm going to say, right? I just kind of get started and I try to dissect it into things that go back to the coaching that I do, that go back to like basically my philosophy and what I've really seen work for people. So, anyway, so that's how we're going to come at this topic today. So if you've ever realized like halfway through a date or dating someone that you were already doing like all the emotional work, then you're going to want to stay today. Um, Almost everyone at some point gets caught in a cycle with emotionally unavailable partners, and sometimes it's you. So let's talk about what it is and what you can do to change the cycle. So, first, I want to kind of define emotional unavailability in relatively broad terms, but I'll try to give you some examples here. So, it's not always about being cold or withholding, but it's about, like, at the core, being afraid of true closeness and vulnerability. And it's usually because you're afraid of being hurt or losing control of a situation, and then getting hurt, right? Or having it not go the way you feel safe with it going. Now, I want to preface this by saying that you are always totally allowed to protect yourself emotionally, especially when you don't know someone well or what the situation is. However, when you are in a stage with someone, when you should be building a foundation and strengthening your connection, that protection that you might have built up, it gets in the way. It has a function, but the function's limited, and it takes awareness to recognize it so you can change it. Common signs of emotional unavailability are, and again, I could be talking about you, and the awareness is important, right? It's important for you to be thinking about, oh, have I done that, right? And doesn't make you bad, makes you human. Makes you human. And we wouldn't talk about it today if it was something I didn't think that could be solved, that if I didn't think it was something you could work on, right? So, emotionally unavailable people will talk about connection, but they'll avoid like the depth of it. So, when I think about this, I think about like, do you notice how like powerful language is, right? And I have kind of a thing about language. I focus on passive language versus active language and ownership a lot. It's like stating a feeling that is happening without stating that you have that feeling, right? And that kind of ownership is really tied to how emotionally available you are and how emotionally vulnerable you're willing to be. So, like a great example is from a dating TV show, and I want to say it was I want to say it was Love Is Blind. But there was a man who was talking about his previous relationship, and he said there was cheating. And I clocked it immediately, and I said that means he cheated. He doesn't want to admit it. But the woman, he said it to multiple women, that he said this to heard that he had been cheated on, and they felt bad for him, which is exactly the result that he wanted, right? But if he had been cheated on, he would have said, she cheated on me, right? And then he would have gotten the same result. He would have gotten the sympathy and everything. But because he wanted to hide the fact that he was a cheater, he used passive phrasing, there was cheating, to like leave it open and maintain that kind of plausible deniability. So, talking around a topic versus actually diving into it is something that people do fall for. And we see it all the time. And that's why I say all the time that words are cheap, right? It's really easy to promise things or sell a vision of yourself that's not accurate in order to connect with someone to earn their approval or admiration. Actually, being the person you say you are is what matters, and you can only show that over time. I actually have a free, like, mini webinar on, I think I still have it on my website. If I don't, if you want it, let me know and I will drop the link. But it's an easy exercise to really define your values. And I think when people talk about that, they can talk about it in very abstract ways. They can say like, oh, this is very important to me. But if you say like, how does that show up for you? How is that important to you? How do you express that? They struggle with it. It would be like basically if I went one time and volunteered at a food bank, right? Um, and then I went on to continually say, I volunteer and supporting local food banks is really important to me. Is that true if I only went one time, right? So I have that mini webinar, and it really helps you get honest about what you really believe in based on the choices you make and how you spend your time and how you spend your resources. And I think that it's because it's so easy to say you do something, but like put your money where your mouth is, right? So talking around things versus diving into them is a sign that someone might be emotionally unavailable, when it's a lot of theory. It sounds like they're saying the right things, but it's really too soon to know if they're going to back it up, right, with action. Um, Another thing is if they open up selectively or very inconsistently. And like, I'll get honest here and share how and why, like, I share selectively. Um, I have a lot of things I share about myself to help people feel more comfortable quickly, because if we're going to do work together, it's very important that you feel like you can trust me. And so it's an effective way to establish rapport and trust, like on this human level, and like really connect. And the things I may share sound very vulnerable, and they are very vulnerable things, but there are things I've worked through and I made peace with. So it costs me very little to share them. But that's me being very aware of how I open up to people, right? You're not required to open up to everybody, but you should have awareness of why you're making a certain choice to open up to the degree that you are. And usually, when someone is emotionally unavailable, they're not aware that they're holding things back. It feels really instinctual to only share when they feel absolutely no risk in doing so. But you know that no true reward happens without risk. So if you stay in your comfort zone, you don't learn and you don't grow. Another sign is that they might use charm or like intensity in a relationship to create closeness, and then they'll retreat when it starts feeling too real. If you've ever been love bombed, especially by someone who is attachment avoidant, like, you know this one. It's really easy for someone to put on the charm when things are going well, the feedback is making them feel good. But emotionally unavailable people either temporarily retreat or they'll peace out entirely when they face difficulties that require vulnerability and honesty to solve. If you feel anxious around them, this is another sign. If you feel anxious around them, like you have to prove your worth or keep things exciting to hold their attention, they're probably emotionally unavailable, right? If you feel like you bringing up anything difficult or giving feedback to them that they won't like will risk your entire relationship, you're in a relationship with someone who is emotionally unavailable. We touched on this a lot. We've touched on this when we talk about avoidant attachment style discussions. And while there's overlap, like quite a bit, it's not exactly the same because attachment style is deeply ingrained from a young age, usually based on how a person was raised. And emotional unavailability can have useful purpose and it can ebb and flow through stages of your life, what's going on, what you feel capable of doing at that time. But what we're talking about is when it gets in the way of you having the relationship or life you want, that's when it's a problem to address. Okay. So just drop a heart in the comments if any of this sounds familiar. I'd be surprised if you haven't been in this situation on one side or another. Um, but let's talk about when it gets really important, okay? So it's not just about the other person, and let's talk about why the pattern of being attracted to emotionally unavailable people can feel so magnetic even though it like never goes the way you want, right? So one of the reasons you're drawn to them is because familiarity feels safe. If you grew up around emotional inconsistency, which is love that felt conditional or unpredictable, then emotional distance can feel like home. um, I say this all the time. Your mind wants to walk a well worn path. Okay. It's easier, it's faster, it's more efficient. Your brain will always go for the path of least resistance, right? But that doesn't mean that's what's best for you. That's why you repeat any pattern in life that isn't serving you because it takes work. It takes work to clear a new path. And when you are receiving information, new information, your brain works to contextualize it within what you already know about the world. And the first way it does this is by deciding if something is familiar or new. And if it's familiar, then it's going to tell you, oh, you know this, so it's safe, right? Like you're familiar with this, so it's safe. Um, another sign is like your nervous system often mistakes anxiety for connection. And we talked about this before. That spark or chemistry that feels electric, it's usually your body chasing safety through pursuit, not peace. So we did discuss this before in the chemistry versus compatibility live session, which is now on my YouTube channel. If you want to go check it out, I'll drop the link in the comments of this post afterward. But heightened emotional states can be the exact same, but then feel different because of the situation, right? So, in that previous session, we talked about how the butterflies may feel early in the relationship, like exciting, right? But you could have the exact same feeling in your body, but it feels like a warning sign if you're alone in an alley and you hear footsteps behind you. It's just like Halsey says, that the butterflies are warning signs. And so excitement, like do not mistake excitement for connection. Okay? It's just an activation of your nervous system, but it doesn't mean it's good. Um Another thing people fall for and why they stay in this cycle is because they fall for this thing called the healing trap. And you may unconsciously believe that if you can just make this unavailable person stay, it will finally heal something old, like the wound of being unseen or abandoned by others before. And let's remember that when we say relationships take work, that's not the kind of work we mean. That's not the kind of work we mean. When we say relationships take work, we mean it takes work to remember to show up for your partner. And it takes work to stay within who you are while being that committed to somebody else. And it takes work to communicate about the things that are difficult to talk about. Like all that's what it means. It doesn't mean inherently a relationship is work. If you feel like you've dated someone and you're constantly talking through things and it's constant work and constant processing, you know what? Message me because I did a whole interview on this topic, and that's not what it means. That's not what it means. It means being thoughtful, right? You can't you can't have a healthy relationship mindlessly existing within it, right? It takes effort, but it's good work. It's not onerous work. Okay, so if you look, let's reflect a little. If you think about your last relationship or situationship, think about like what felt familiar about it. Um, like what your body felt was like known about it that you responded to. And if you want to put it in the chat, that would be super cool. Um, so okay, so why are you here? Let's talk about how we break this cycle. Okay, so the first thing we want and need for this is awareness. The moment you recognize the pattern, you are no longer stuck in it. You can observe it instead of reliving it. So you have to be real with yourself. If you're dating someone you keep making excuses for when thinking about how they're not aligned with what you want in life, that's a good sign you're with someone who is emotionally unavailable. Um, your situation, it's not unique. It's not just that other people don't understand the situation. And anyone who's been like, oh, guys, you don't get it. He really loves me. He just has to work a lot. And so I can only see him once every 2 weeks. Like, this is not, you know, if you're saying, oh, it's he just has to talk to his ex all the time because she needs his advice about honey, if you're making excuses all the time, this is not a good situation. So it's not that other people just like don't get it. It's it's not a good situation. It's not fun to admit this, but you have to get real with yourself. Okay, so if you feel like you're always making excuses for the other person, or like people just like don't understand and the way you're explaining it is like not clear, or you're starting to hide information because you know other people will interpret it incorrectly, let's take a hard look at what's going on. Okay, and if it's really aligned with what you want, book a call with me, we'll talk about it. The next thing you want to do is you want to choose calm over chaos or excitement, right? If a relationship constantly feels like emotional whiplash, that's not passion. It's your nervous system in distress. A relationship should not feel like a constant, like a tidal wave just constantly pulling you under as soon as you get start to take a breath, right? It should feel like gentle, warm waves that are consistent and predictable. And predictable does not mean boring, it means secure. We need security as humans in order to pursue our goals. It's the same thing about like if you do not have a safe place to live, then you can't also start a nonprofit, right? Like first you need to have your needs consistently taken care of. And then you'll have the capacity to start something new or to reach for that goal. It takes a lot of emotional and mental energy to keep situations in your life that are not aligned with what you truly want and who you are. That's energy you waste that you could be spending on things that make your life more satisfying and meaningful. So you can do some small shifts today. Start to notice people who make you feel relaxed, even if it seems unfamiliar at first. You can notice situations where you felt like you could be your true self. Um, this is why I still am a part time chef, because when I'm cooking, I feel totally comfortable even if I'm challenging myself. And by doing that and coaching, I get to use the skills and passions that make me feel like I am being totally myself and putting my skills to the best use in service of others. I couldn't choose one. I couldn't just do one, because then I'm leaving this another part of myself behind, and I really want to put it all, I want to feel like a whole person who's using the best of my talents the best way possible, right? So take some inventory on that and see in what situations you feel like, did you have to pretend to be somebody else, or were you able to be yourself? I know, like, I've worked corporate a lot, and I it's not who I am. I don't have a lot of energy for things that are untrue. I don't have a lot of energy for pretending things are okay when they're like fundamentally wrong. And so you can imagine that, like, that kind of work, it doesn't suit me, because I have to feel like I work in alignment with my own values, or you're not going to get the best work out of me. Just never will, right? So that's why I do that, because I understand who I am and where I feel best. And I've taken inventory where I go, how do I feel today? How do I feel when I'm heading to work? How do I feel during work? How do I feel after work? And I want that answer to always feel pretty good. It's okay if I'm tired sometimes, but pretty good. I feel pretty good, and I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and I feel like at peace and quiet in my body. So I know that it is what I should be doing, right? So, another thing you want to do is to practice emotional availability with yourself. So, can you sit with your feelings without judging them? I struggle with that. I struggle with that for sure. Can you name what you need before you can expect someone else to meet it? Can you accept that if you state your needs to someone who claims to care about you, that they may not respond in the way you want? And are you capable of still being okay, right? If it doesn't go the way you want. What is your plan to care for yourself if you are disappointed by somebody who you care a lot about, who lets you down, right? Emotional availability starts internally. So you can set the stage for the relationship you want and not follow someone else's lead if it's not what you're looking for. You have just as much power as the other person if you claim it. So if you get into a relationship with someone, no matter how you feel about them, if they're not delivering on the things that are important to you, and you're looking for that consistency, that trust, right? How do we build trust? Actions aligned with words and promises made over time, right? So consistent following up with the things you say you're going to do. That's how you build trust. So if you're looking for that, you're looking for that reassurance in the relationship, and you're looking for signs that they are who they say they are, and it's not showing up for you, you have the power to say, this is what I need, and to lead with that and see if they're going to rise to the occasion or not, right? We don't always have to look for other. I know as a woman, especially, raised by and married to and, dated very controlling men, that I let them set the tone a lot. And it was a self preservation tactic, to let them set the tone. And in doing that, I gave up all of my own power. And I would never do that again. If I couldn't be in a relationship with someone right now, which I am, who lets me be exactly who I am, who lets me do what I want, who trusts me to make the right decisions, um, and respects and honors our differences that way, and I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't bother being in a relationship. If I hadn't met him and he was the way he is, I wouldn't be in one, because as much as I'd want that for my life, what I want more is to live according to my values and my identity. And so if I ever felt like I couldn't be my authentic self around him, um, I know him well enough now to know that that's probably something I need to look at within myself. I'm probably projecting it on myself because he doesn't do that to me. He trusts me and gives me space, and I give him space. And you know, the work we do is to choose each other. Is to just every day choose each other, make sure the other one knows how much we appreciate each other, and that show it in, acts of small acts of love all the time. That's the work, and it's joyful work. But um, another thing, I digress. Another thing is you want to create new experiences of consistency. So if you've been in this cycle, what you need to do is surround yourself with friends, communities, mentors, coaches who are steady, right? Your brain learns safety through repetition. Again, actions aligned with words over time, right? So with awareness and support, you can clear that new path and end the cycle of investing in people and relationships that will ultimately let you down, right? So a mini exercise you could do is think of a way that you could practice emotional availability this week. Something like speaking honestly in a conversation, even if you're not sure what you're going to say is going to be understood that well or very popular, right? Saying no when you mean no, and letting that lie. No, I can't. I No, that won't work for me. Um, or asking someone for something important, not really knowing how they're going to respond, right? I definitely struggle asking for help. Um, I know a lot of people do, right? Emotional availability is me asking for help. And knowing that if someone says no, that's okay. It's not a rejection of me, it's just them saying no for whatever reason they have. So if I ask for help, it's me being vulnerable and saying, I would like some help, and I'm going to risk you saying no and feeling like momentarily rejected. But I know that it is not a statement of my value. It's just you saying no, right? So, some final closing thoughts. You're not cursed to keep attracting the same kind of person, right? But I will say that, one of the things I hate when people talk about is like, say, like my type. And if you're talking about my type, you're probably still looking, right? You're probably still looking for a person to share your life with. And I would challenge you that if you think someone has to be like your type, if it hasn't been working for you, should they be your type? Like, and how would you know, right? When you early meet someone, like looks are fleeting and there's something that people really aren't responsible for. Generally it's genetic. So what you're looking for is like the choices they make, the way they express themselves, how they treat other people, and how they care for themselves, and all of those qualities that people can choose and develop within themselves. That's actually a better indicator of who someone is than whether or not they're dark haired or whatever their height is or whatever like their hobbies are. So you you once you see that pattern, you can start choosing differently. I mean, emotional availability, it's not about being perfect or fearless all the time, but it's about like being open and kind to yourself first, right? Don't beat yourself up about this. It's not worth it. You can change it. Just become aware and change it, right? You deserve love. That doesn't make you question your worth or your importance or the importance of like the things that you really want in life. You're allowed to want what you want, okay? Um, if you want to talk about this more about your specific situation, what's going on with you, just book a free breakthrough session with me. It is seriously, it is no pressure. We will just have a real conversation over the phone or on Zoom, whatever works for you. Um, and and I will do as much as I can in that period of time for you. Okay. So, I mean, my philosophy is rooting in uncovering your authenticity. So, and what drives you and how to align yourself to the life that you want, right? How to like take what you have and make it really work for you to get the life that you want and to have this holistic picture. Um, whether you see that like being in a relationship or flying solo and like living this full life alone, right? So you can rewrite your story. It can start today. It can start right away. Um, oh, before we go, just a reminder. So it's Wednesday now. So my newsletter comes out on Fridays. If you have not subscribed, make sure you do because I round up news, stories, advice, and resources from all corners of the internet. I put um, not just articles and stories and essays, but I've done and guides. I've put in podcasts for hypnosis sessions and meditations. All kinds of things. If I hear something I think you're going to want to hear, I will usually put it in the newsletter, and it's I almost never post it anywhere else. It's just going to be in the newsletter, that those kinds of resources. So and if I've got anything new to offer, anything new going on, um it's going to be in the newsletter first. So I'll drop the link in the comments as well. And happy Halloween. um I'm going to see you next time. I love Halloween. I love Halloween. Even though I haven't had trick or treaters in forever, I love Halloween. So I will see you next time. Make sure you let me know of any topics you want me to cover in live sessions, whether it's in comments, whether you message me privately, like a lot of you do. Like, I I want to hear about what you want to hear about so we can address it, because whatever help I can give you in this format, like I want to give you. And if it's still not hitting right, just book the session, because we'll just talk about what's going on, and if I can't help you, I will give you other resources if it's not the right fit for what I work on. Okay. So the link is going to be in the chat. I'll put the link to that is it chemistry or compatibility video. The group, like, Facebook deletes these after 30 days, so I try to catch them, and then I will put them up on my YouTube page so they can live there, because that can live forever. Okay, so I will put the link there if you missed that one, and then the link to the newsletter also. But yeah, thanks for joining. It was a little long one, but I think that could have gone longer, could have done more. And if you want to talk about this or anything else regarding relationships, next steps, burnout, breakups, I'm not like a dating coach that's going to coach you on like what you're going to say in the date to get a good result, right? What I do is help you figure out like what you want, why you want it, how it aligns with who you are, and how we can get you there, right? How we can make a roadmap for you to build that life that you're looking for. That's really what I do. If you want to talk about a date like that, if you want to go through stuff like that, you totally we can do that too. But to me, those are temporary interactions, and it would be better if you have a real solution that lasts forever. So, anyway, again, have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye.